was Brad Groombridge. He's one of the fastest dirt bike riders I know, and madder than a hatter. Whether it's motocross, cross country or enduro, Brad's always up at the pointy end. And back in 2017, I filmed a bunch of his cross country races, which is a discipline that takes place off the beaten track, through miles and miles of natural terrain. The races are usually hours long, forcing the riders to refuel mid-race and pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. Brad would always run a helmet camera for me, and together, we captured some amazing stuff. But then, for no apparent reason, the fun police decided to ban all helmet-mounted accessories, which obviously put an end to that. You see, it's not really possible to film this sort of an event without them. Even 20 cameramen would only cover a small portion of the track. So we just stopped filming together. In recent years, however, multi-time American cross-country champion and New Zealand native Paul Whibley has set up his own rival series to our national championship, and he's done it under his own jurisdiction, which means helmet cameras are allowed. And when I heard that Brad had made an, as you'll see, spectacular appearance in round 2, I mailed him a GoPro in time for the third. And it was just like old times. Motocross, cross country, enduro, and much more. Join me for the ride of a lifetime. Where we left you, Suzuki shut up shop. You had to move brands, went to Honda. So I remember seeing that on Instagram, Honda Series 450R. Weird sight after seeing you on only Suzuki's for like over 10 years. And then, so I didn't actually hear about this. So it started going good. And then between an injury and COVID, there was like a 1.5 year gap, sort of a hiatus in racing for you, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, sort of. I didn't actually ride the Honda for that long, to be fair, because I got it and then not long after I got hurt. Like I might have only ridden it for a month, done my knee, and I had to go and have that fixed at some point. And I actually didn't hop on a bike for ages. And then a little bit before my surgery, that's when Mark from White Line rang me up and said, I'll give you a beta to ride, basically.
And so what was that like after riding Japanese motocross bikes for, like 15 years?
I was a bit skeptical at first. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I've never ridden, I've done a lap here and there on a KTM, but I've never spent a decent amount of time on one. So I I had my doubts. And then I got a 300 two-stroke and I was actually blown away with how good it was. Like, and probably not so much suited to motocross or fast cross country, but it was just so compliant. I was surprised and excited because I really enjoyed it. And so I rode that for a few months and just kind of went from there, had my surgery. First bike I got when I was able to get back on a bike was a 300 two-stroke beater. And then I did the Enduro Nationals on that, basically off the couch, did no riding. I ended up tied with Will Yeoman from Taupo for third, but fourth on a countback. And I've now got rid of the 300 two-stroke because I found that it just didn't quite have the power delivery that you needed on the harder, slippery ground. You sort of had to lug it in a tall gear using the clutch until you got it going, and then once you got it going you could crack the gas on. But a lot of the time you needed to be able to get on the gas straight away and know that you had to drive underneath you, where you just didn't have that. So I've got a 390 now.
And that's a 4-stroke, obviously.
Yeah, 390 4-stroke, and it's sort of, it's in between a 350 and a 450. It's probably not as high performance as a KTM 350, but like for riding in the bush and when you go to somewhere where the trails are tighter, it's actually really enjoyable to ride. And all I've done to it so far is just put a heavier spring in the back.
So that sorted out your issue of kind of low speed acceleration?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Now, coming into the 2022 GNCC series. So am I right in saying that you missed the first round?
No, I actually didn't miss the first round. I switched the tank on the beater to a big tank. On the KTMs and the beaters, they have a clip joiner in the fuel line from the tank to the throttle body. I don't know whether I didn't clip it in or whether it came unclipped, because it's sort of a bit weird when I looked at it a bit closer. It's not spring loaded to hold it locked or shut. So now I actually run a bit of tie wire through it so it can't.
Right.
Was going along this fast straight part, and next thing it just went whoa, and completely. We had the seat off, checking battery terminals and all sorts of carry on. Ended up towing it back to the bloody pits. Got to the pits and then had a bit more of a look over it, and then figured out it was a fuel line. Plugged it back in, away it went.
Ugh, bugger.
Yeah, it's a bit frustrating.
Right, so that's what happened in round one. And then moving on to round two, obviously, nothing eventful happened in that one, right?
Nothing eventful at all. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to walk away from that. I was going to ride the Kawasaki at that one because I thought sandy and it was going to be quite fast. And then,
so you already had the Kawasaki by that point?
Yeah, I'd got it that week, and I was waiting for an IMS dry brake big tank to turn up, and it never showed up in time. So I ended up riding the beater at that race too.
Do you think that crash at the beginning was largely a result of just a standard enduro bike suspension setting on a sand track?
A little bit. It was more of a mistake on my part, really. I've done enough of those races that I should know better than to go flat out balls to the wall straight off the start on the first lap when you haven't even looked at the track. So yeah, it was kind of my fault. I saw an opening and I thought, oh no, that's sweet, that's just got a little mound and a little jump.
Next minute.
I don't really know how I got out of that one, but I got out of it. So
that brings us to the present day, round 3 of the GNCC series, which is at kind of more of like a middle of the road, almost sandy type area, almost hard pack, classic North Island pumice.
Yeah.
You're on the KX450, which has now got its IMS dry brake fuel tank, so you'll be good in the pit stops. What was your feeling going into this one?
I felt pretty good about that one. I was like, if I can get a good start, I do get a bit of arm pump. I won't have arm pump initially, but somewhere between probably the first 15 or 20 minutes and the 40-minute mark, my arms pump up pretty bad. So the start was something I wanted to try and nail, but yeah, as we'll see, it didn't really go to plan.
You nervous at this point?
10 seconds.
Yeah, you can tell by the deep breath. I try to do a second gear start.
Oh yeah.
Practiced it, sweet as, every time, and then
I must say I was surprised because I had one of these Kawasaki's and they are, I would say, the best starting motocross bike currently.
Yeah, they are. They're actually they do start real good. I think I was just pushing it a bit, trying to
Probably touch the throttle or something, eh?
Yeah, I'm not too sure really. I made an error somewhere anyway.
And then of course once everybody else starts their bikes, not a lot of people know this, but you literally cannot even tell if yours is running because it's so loud.
Yeah, that's right.
With a lot of work left ahead of him now, just like old times, Brad started slicing and dicing his way through the field. So what are you thinking at this point? Are you like right, I learned from round 2, I'm going to chill and I've got plenty of time, work my way through a bit more slowly this time?
Obviously, I knew that I wasn't like right up near the front. At the moment, I'm just trying to get past people, doesn't matter who it is, or kind of how I get past them.
That's a big move.
Yeah, that was bloody close, that fence post. I remember thinking this is going to be touch and go, but got away with it.
As he continued carving his way towards the front, Brad elaborated on how his racecraft varies depending on which situation he finds himself in after the start.
If you get to the lead on the first lap and you can get a gap from the guy in second, where they can't use you as a braking marker, you are able to get a bit of a gap and they struggle to catch that back up.
I know what you mean, like they're kind of going to ride slightly slower if they're 200 metres behind you than they would if they were 10 metres behind you.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. So like, I don't know what the situation is at the front at the moment, but obviously it's not bad being back here. I've got a whole lot of markings on the track and you can look at those in terms of direction and braking. You can generally have a bit of an idea on what direction the track goes by which way the marks go leading in. Coming into a braking area, you'll see that someone's been hard on the brakes, so there must be a tightish turn or someone's needed to get on the brakes at that point anyway. So
interesting, so you're actually looking out for those markers while you're riding?
Yeah, I think subconsciously you are, like,
right.
You're still looking where you're going, but you're looking for any sort of thing like that can maybe give you an indication of where or how that track's going to change or where that route's going to go, you know, at that point.
Yeah, because you've obviously not had a look lap or even ridden this circuit before.
No, that's right, and that's where the being in the lead it makes it more difficult, because if you're leading, you've got no markings, no one in front of you in the distance to be able to gauge off. And at this point I'm thinking, while I can see people and see marks, I need to try and make up as much time as I can.
Yeah, so the advantage you're talking about of being behind on the first lap really comes into play on the brand new sections that have no marks at all in them, especially because on top of not being able to judge braking points properly, you can actually just totally miss the track and have to turn around as well.
Yeah, that's right, and then you lose time, so you got to be clever about it if you're in the lead and you have got a gap. You've got to not override, because if you override you end up going the wrong way. As long as I can see the leader, I'm pretty happy, and I'll sit there for however long. This guy stalls it just here, I think. Got an easy one there.
That wasn't the only easy pass Brad would get gifted either, because his main rival and championship points leader, Damon Neild, was in exactly the precarious position we were speaking of. And whereas Brad, back here in fourth, had this line to follow, Damon was reliant on the arrows, which aren't always very clear. Like for example this one, which could mean turn right, or go straight. Damon guessed wrong. That's actually your main competition off the track right there that you've just passed without realising it.
So he was leading, and I didn't actually see that when I was racing. It wasn't until I watched the footage back. So I'm still going fairly quick, thinking he's getting further and further away.
Yeah.
And it's not till we get out, not far from the end on some open stuff, I actually turned around at one point to make sure that my bike was leaving a mark on the ground.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to tell whether I was leading or not. So when it gets up to that point, I'll kind of give you a rundown.
So without realising it, Brad was in a troll for the lead. And yes, that's a real word.
this is where I start to wonder, and see, if you look at the dirt in front of me, there's no like fresh mark. The dirt's actually dried out.
Right.
Just there, I like turn around and look at the dirt to see if it's a darker colour underneath.
I wondered what you're looking at.
Yeah, it was all dry like that, and I thought, well, if I turn around and have a look and see if the dirt's like a different colour after I've ridden over it, that'll give me a good indication of whether I'm bleeding or not.
And this wasn't Brad's only unorthodox method of determining which position he was in either.
Nearly run over some sheep up here somewhere.
Absolute staple of New Zealand cross country. When you're leading, you get the sheep.
It was a bit of a surprise, and that's sort of another telltale sign that I was leading, because I was like, well...
Yeah, the sheep were on the track.
Yeah, the sheep were on the track. If someone else was leading, they wouldn't have been there.
As Brad rounded out the first lap, all that remained for him to do now was disappear. I mean, you do the math. He'd already come from last to first, and pretty easily too. But this race is full of surprises, and for me at least, this was the first really big one.
You can see that Damon just passed me back there. I'm not too stressed about it.
Yeah, so I must say though, that would have to be probably the first time I've ever seen someone just straight up pass you in one of these GoPro perspectives. I was pretty surprised when I watched that.
Probably because it's like early on, so I've got a bit of arm pump by now. It's been 25 minutes, so like I'm good for 15 odd minutes, and then after that, it starts to come on, and then at about the 40-minute mark-ish, and you'll see the video tells it that when it starts to disappear, he kind of got away, and then I just started riding tall gears and kind of trail riding a bit.
Seeing him pull away like that, were you a bit like, oh, he's going faster than I bargained for?
Nah, I know he's a fast rider, like no doubt about that, and I knew there'd be places on the track where he would be generally just faster than me. Maybe not the open stuff, but definitely the tighter section. But there's no point me trying to push when I got arm pump, because you end up crashing or, you know, something like that. So
yeah,
I was pretty sweet at that point. I was like, you know, it's early on, I'm just going to cruise, let my arms settle down, and knowing that they would settle down, and then I was like, and then I'll pick the pace back up again when I feel like I can, rather than go and push now, make a mistake. Like, and I say make a mistake, I mean like you could just fall off in a couple of turns going slow, but the amount of time that you lose doing that, you know, it's hard to make back up. So you better just to try and stay on your bike. You can tell he's pushing, so it's like let him make the mistake or overshoot another corner or this or that. So now I was pretty content with just sitting where I was.
Right, that's interesting to know, like that this much calculation goes on, as well as just dealing with an extremely tricky track. Once Brad had pointed this out, it seemed so obvious. You never used to see him getting high-sided in turns or stalling the engine. He was clearly hurting, and if this did always happen, it wasn't half so drastic before, which begged the question, where had these 2 years on the couch and multiple bike changes left his conditioning?
I'm probably capable of going the same speed, but whether I'm capable of going the same speed for the same amount of time is probably more the question.
Okay.
And that I would probably say that no, I can't go. If you wanted me to go race a 4 hour off the bat, like with no camelback like I used to, and go as fast as I used to go, I could probably do it. Like I could do the 4 hours, but I wouldn't be able to do it at the same speed I did then.
Yeah.
I would like to get back to that level.
So, follow-up question, do you think, like with this Kawasaki now, it's obviously a similar bike, how does it compare to the Suzukis that you liked, the 2017 and backwards?
The Suzuki that I had just handled so well. Like it was so well balanced, it was so predictable. If I can get the Cowie to that point, I'll be stoked.
Yeah, do you feel that the engine's better?
Oh yeah, the engine's definitely got more power.
Yeah.
Not that power's everything, but
Yeah.
having some power there is always nice. And then I guess just the way that it feels to ride's quite nice. Like it feels a lot like the Suzuki, like the older Suzuki.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just getting those little personal things like the suspension set up and things like that all dialed in, and that'll just basically allow me to go faster. You know, go faster and be safer doing it.
So you've caught Damon here though.
Yeah, I catch back up to him. It's funny how he was like way ahead for so long. I did have a bit of a chat to him at the end, and I think he said he pumped up a little bit.
Did you compute, like, were you thinking, oh, he might have arm pump here?
I sort of figured that may be what was happening, that he just kind of had pumped up now.
Yeah.
Or he was maybe getting tired, but it was pretty early on, so I was kind of going, no, surely he won't be tired by now. You sort of start to tell when my arm pump goes away because I start giving it way more jandle. This paddock here right up to where it jumps onto the track, man, was like unreal amount of bumps through here. I don't know why it's so rough. You had a mixture of bumps and sheep ruts, and like it was actually a pretty scary part of the track.
So it almost looks like he's trail riding there and you've just kind of trail ridden past him, but it's just because it's so rough.
Nah, I think he was just a bit suspect about that bit of track too. Like it was just real sketchy. You just didn't know what it was going to be like, or whether there was something in the ground that was going to catch you out.
With the lead back in hand and no arm pump this time around, Brad put the hammer down. There'll be a lot of Americans and Australians and stuff just thinking, oh my god, how cool are these tracks?
Yeah, I know, it's funny, yeah, like so different to what they have.
To be fair, even me in the South Island, like, there's nothing like this. An hour in, and our 2 litres had hit the first few dregs of lap traffic. Which reminded me of another question I'd been meaning to ask Brad. You don't tend to rev the bike at the lappers. Is this a conscious choice that you've made not to do?
Nah, I think it's like certain areas of the tracks you kind of feel like you don't need to, and then maybe other areas you do, and sometimes it doesn't make them get out of the way any quicker, because doing that can give them a fright and then they can crash.
Yeah, that was my point. I wondered if that was why you did that, because they stay on their line if they don't know you're there.
Yeah, that's right. So sometimes it's a hard one. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I remember the race with Paul at the 4 hour, and they were trying to pass that lapper in that narrow tree section, and I clip his handlebars and we both go down. And I don't even know whether I panic revved or whether I yelled at that guy. I don't even know. I might not have done anything.
But he did know you were there. I remember that one. Like, he was panicking is what was happening.
Yeah, similar to like if you're in a car and someone pulls out in front of you, and there'll be a lot of people that get on the horn, but then if you get on the horn, that person could freak out and just hit the brakes and stop, and then you crash straight in the side of them. Like if you've sort of seen them coming and you kind of already see it happening, there's no point in even tooting the horn, because you just brake yourself or move, you know, like to swerve around them or this or that or whatever. Whereas if you get straight on the horn, you're focused on getting on the horn, not on trying to avoid them. Then they get a fright, then they jam the brakes on or turn left or turn right, whatever it might be. So yeah, I don't know.
That's a real good example, actually. Real good.
Yeah, it's a real interesting one, man. I don't know, everyone will have their take on it, but that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Oh. Yep. Do you want them or them? Yeah, they'll do. They were pretty close behind that. I think these guys are setting a pace in a real bad. No, let go. And if we don't see it, 111,
That's Damon right there. Despite all that hard riding, Brad hadn't been able to pull a gap on him whatsoever. And with their only pit stops out of the way, if nothing changed, this thing was going to come down to the wire. So Brad decided to up the pace even further.
Yeah, bro, I'm alright.
So what were you thinking at this point when you look at the bike down that bank?
I was just thinking, what an idiot. I was leading, I had a gap. I should have just gone fast where it was open and it was safe to do so.
I noticed that you crashed it to try and stop yourself, but like you just had so much momentum that both you and the bike pushed right the way off the road.
Yeah, and like I was just trying to slow it down. I sort of knew what was off there. I knew it was steep. To be fair, I probably would have got it out eventually by myself, but man, it's steep and I'm just puffing.
Yeah.
I got to here and I got a bit stuck. There was a tree and I thought it was sticking in the ground. What I should have done is jump down and just ripped it straight out through the wheel, but every time I went to pull up, it was stuck.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll bloody get out of here. Oh yeah, if you can.
So you're counting all the positions that are going by right here?
Sort of, not 100%, kind of more worried about getting out of there really.
Can you try and get that stick out of my front wheel? No, there's one.
But yeah, what a legend she was.
Yeah, it's amazing. She just sacrificed her own race. You know her name?
Michelle Ledbury. Yeah, massive shout out to her.
Don't know if it'll... Looks like it might be loose, but it might have to come out your way. Oh yeah.
She jumps on the other side and rips that out.
I'll start it. Pull it up and I'll... Cool. You alright?
Yeah, and I think I even might have got her in the bloody ribs then a little bit. She was alright, she said. Whether she was or not, I'm not sure, but...
Thank you, I think I'll be right. You're a legend.
Yeah, not many would have done that. That's awesome.
Nah, yeah, well, normally it's guys stopping to help ladies that have got in a situation, you know, so, but it's the other way around.
Thank you so much.
And then you had a lot of trouble with your gloves after this.
Oh man, I had like pumice all jammed in the Velcro of my gloves.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like on struggle street to try and bloody...
What a
You hear me say then, what a fuck up. So then it was like creating blisters.
Oh, is that what it was doing to you?
Yeah, with like the loose gloves and my hand moving, and the glove was like causing my hands to blister up.
Right.
So that was my next issue. Pretty much from now on, it's just like go mad.
Yeah, like the pace just immediately increases from this point on.
Yeah, I was pretty angry at myself.
If you're unfamiliar with Brad and wondering what kind of a speed he must have ridden at before all of his time off the bike, well, this is more like it. He used to be able to do this sort of thing for 4 hours straight, relentlessly. I haven't actually stopped to time how long you were down in the ditch for, but like you lost a lot of time. Did you have in your head that you could potentially still win this, or were you like, nah, that's it?
No, I didn't know whether I could or not. I was just going to obviously give it my best shot at trying to get back to the front. I think I did work out how much time I lost. So from when I led to when I got going, I think I lost 3 minutes. I got a minute back on this lap, and then on the next lap I made another minute. So I made up 2 minutes basically in the rest of this lap and the next lap. So
Yeah, which is insane.
yeah, no, it was I was on a mission.
Actually now place number 5 has gone from 3 to 5. He's got another lap to make up on.
By the time Brad rounded the lap scoring chicane, he'd already clawed his way back to the rear wheel of 4th place. So this is white flag, we're on the last lap now, but of course you don't know that.
No, you don't, and that's a downfall, is that in a race that's based on time, you don't know. You're just going, like I'm going flat out to try and get as far up the field as I can, and then maybe hoping that I get another lap after this.
A gift. And the charge continued. was actually exactly the same corner that you passed that guy on the YZ250X. Same line as well.
Yeah. Just managed to get next to him, sort of thing. I was probably a bit nice. I didn't really cut his lunch as much. Yeah, I nearly crashed. I must have hit a tree root or a stick or something.
Brad was clearly pushing the limit, but it had paid dividends so far. He was back into the podium positions and making up ground hand over fist. Did you know that this guy was second place?
Actually, I might have done, because I think Dad might have said that I was fifth going through the pits onto that last lap.
Yeah, so you've been counting since then. He did actually. I remember him. He held his hand up.
Yeah, so I think I did know. And he's one that I didn't really think of. Like, I knew there was the guy on the Yamaha, the guy Ryan on the KTM, and I didn't know who was in second, and it wasn't until I got close to this guy, and I think he turns around.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you didn't have to pass him coming through the... Well, you did, but it was like for 10th, not like second when you passed him the first time.
Kind of catch him just at the end there, and he looks behind, and then he gets all out of shape. He must have known that I was hunting him down.
Yeah.
And that's when I realised, I was like, okay, that's second. So then it was on like Donkey Kong after that.
Yeah, which is interesting, because as far as we know, he might not have even known that he passed you.
Just there.
Yeah.
So he just turns around and looks, and then it's like, oh shit, I've got to get a wriggle on.
Immediately, that was like touch and go.
Just there, he nearly had a big one.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't look as bad when you watch it on the GoPro, man, but when I saw it, like, front row seat, it was like, whoa.
This is quick though, you guys are pushing it.
Yeah, through here is dodgy too. There's some big holes, like, you get offline a little bit, and it's like, whoa. There he goes, nearly over backwards. I was like, man, I've got to just pick my spot where I pass him, because he's on the edge.
This bit here is the big one.
Oh, I know. Yeah, this is massive. Yeah, I don't know how it didn't let go. And when he nearly goes off the end of here, he's a bit fast over the end of here, and he nearly like, just gets it in at the last minute. This is actually quite close up here. I nearly jumped and landed in the back of him.
Oh yeah, it's like James Stewart and Ricky Carmichael that time.
Yeah, you can't beat 450 power though, right?
Now that is a crazy finish, man. And you can see right there, Paul just immediately, you can see his head when he realises Paul just points at him and says, nah, you did not get that position.
Nah, because he's just straight through the tape.
What a finish though, what a finish.
It was probably one of the closest finishes I've ever had, to be fair, even though it was only for second. No, you're right.
You got me, mate. Good.
You're loose that last bit, man, holy.
I just really wanted to get on the but no.
You are, you still are.
Nah, you got in front.
Yeah, but you're still third.
No, I was fourth.
Nah, Damon, then me, then you. Third, mate.
Bring it in.
Pretty pumped day, it's quite cool. He must be a young fella, I think, like he's only just gone senior maybe, so.
It's a cool moment.
Yeah, pretty neat. Good job, mate. Oh yeah.
Yeah, good sportsmanship there too, but yeah, what a finish. That's so...
Oh, it made for an entertaining last, 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, for sure. That slide, man, and right beside the fence too. Holy
Yeah, and then like his reaction at the end, thinking that he hadn't made the podium, and then I'm like, dude, you're on the podium. So no, it was pretty cool.
It was wicked.
It's a shame that MNZ have got this stupid rule that we can't run GoPros on our helmets when every other country in the world can. It's like,
well, including at the highest level, they seem to think it's safe in the World Championship, so I don't see why it isn't safe for us who ride a lot
they're
slower.
the fastest guys in the world, and yet they won't let us run a GoPro here when we're not the fastest. But it's like they want to try and grow the sport, but to me that's not growing the sport, because that stuff for riders and as well as people in the industry, like you can just get so much out of that.
Yeah, no, they're cutting their nose off in spite of their face.
Yeah, I reckon it needs to change, but I don't know how you go about trying to change that. That's all.
No, I don't know how much I want to get into this here. It's probably the wrong forum for it. But what makes it real bad for me is the only study that you can find online about whether or not GoPros are dangerous, like people that have actually tested it, was for rock climbing helmets. And they dropped a dummy with 70 different configurations of helmet and GoPro and all this, apparently, hundreds of times, and basically came to the conclusion that it was safer to have the GoPro on because it like buffeted the fall in most cases.
Oh my God, that's just...
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, maybe we'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah, perhaps. I would like to get into that. I probably should have done it by now.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that was wicked. And yeah, hopefully we can do a bit more of this in the future. Man, I miss watching footage from you guys. It's the only time where I get to be a fan as well as make the video. I still go back and watch some videos like later. Like I watched them just not long ago actually, because it's just such epic footage, and it hasn't really been happening since 2018 or 19 or whatever it was. All right then. Well, I guess all that's left is thank you everybody for watching. And
yep, thanks everyone. Sweet.
Cheers for hosting, Brad.
Oh, it's easy. I'm not up to much at the moment.